I think worship gives me the words and the images and the stories that I then understand myself and my neighbors and life and God and the world through those lenses. I think that sometimes people might think you go to worship for one particular experience or one particular nugget you take away. I think it's more subtle than that. I think that worship shapes the way I look at the world. There are a few worship services that I recall being very deeply meaningful, more than usual, maybe. Some of these are recurring. I love the Easter Vigil. I love that journey from, literally from darkness to light, but that journey from life to death. I love hearing the whole arc of the biblical story read during that one worship service. There's a line in the Easter Vigil where we give thanks to God for God's servants, the bees, for making the wax for the candles. And it's a really silly line in some ways, but it's also really profound that we are part of a whole creation that serves God's purposes in the end. And that's really hopeful to me. So Easter Vigil, hold an evening prayer during Lent is always wonderful. But I also remember a couple of really difficult times in my life when I could not pray or sing or say the creed, not because I didn't believe those things, but because it was just too painful to do it. And out of habit, my feet brought me to church anyway. And the rest of the community prayed and sang and confessed for me until I could again. And that's just profoundly important. When we first started coming to St. Andrews, one thing that I noticed and appreciated was how widely the worship leadership was extended. So that it wasn't just the pastor up front, it was the pastor and a lay assistant for worship. But not just that. The lectors were neither of those leaders. There were other people in the congregation involved. And lots of times the youth were involved there. The same with communion serving, the ensemble, the youth that often play and sing for an offertory or prelude or during communion, children's choir. I was just amazed that on a particular Sunday we might have 30 or 40 people helping lead worship. And that really made it clear this was a work of the whole people and not just a spectator sport. And that's important for me. I want this to be a church that's engaged, not just in looking, but in helping one another through that worship experience. Let me focus on the music. There are more things in worship that cost money than the music, but music is one of them. And I think that music is important because it gives maybe more beautiful words to what we need to say than I would come up with on my own. It gives us words that we can say together. It gives us a way to express our faith beyond rational, intellectual levels. It goes to a deeper sort of emotional connection as well. And so those songs, those pieces of liturgy, those hymns that I've sung for almost 60 years now have become a part of me. And they're important to me. And I want them to be important to God's people as the years go forward as well. And if that music is going to be able to seep into people's hearts and into their lives, then it needs to be done well. I think St. Andrews does music well on many different levels. But that means that we need to support musicians who can, with skill, help us to engage in that music. I think this is an investment, not just in my enjoyment, though I do enjoy the music, but an investment in the future health of this congregation.